Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for coming in on this beautiful day. So when we were thinking about Agent Secrets this month, we just had our theme of the year release, which is human connection. And I couldn't help but think that these two really embody that. I feel like when you're around them, you feel more positive, you feel more inspired. At least that's how I always feel when I'm around you guys. And that's been consistent, and it doesn't surprise me at all that they've had tremendous first 2 years of real estate, because I feel like their clients probably feel that as well, and just everyone around them. And everyone comes in and they have a lot of ambition and goals, but I really have seen you guys stick to that over the years, and it's just been amazing watching your journey, and I'm really proud of you guys, and super excited we're doing this, because I think that there's a lot that you guys have learned over this time and a lot to share. So with that being said, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. Dan, let's start with you.
All right. Yeah, hi. First, thanks for coming. This is a great turnout. We really appreciate that. My name is Dan Wurtele. I'm now licensed 21 months and been with Oakwyn since the beginning. Prior to that, I was in the music industry for 20 years, where in the last 9 of them, I worked for a local events promotion company and earned the title of Director of Concerts, which essentially meant I was responsible for the logistical and financial management for over 750 events across Western Canada. During that time, I created an appreciation for real estate investing. I joined a fantastic organization by the name of the Real Estate Investment Network and started to invest in properties and buy real estate investments. This also helped me introduce my friends to real estate investments and get them into some properties and learn about joint ventures as well. I really love the world. I love the real estate world. I love the investing world. And just over 2 years ago, I decided to commit my whole life to being able to provide real estate services to my friends and colleagues. And that brought me here today.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Dash. I used to be a construction and development project manager. For 10 years, I would build subdivisions, racetracks, any kind of work with heavy equipment. And so I learned a lot about real estate, how to construct it, what to look for, all of that side of the business. But I realized that, much like probably a lot of you did with the industries you came from, you make other people a lot of money. And I got tired of seeing my hard work go into somebody else's life, and decided that I was going to take my skill set, which I had learned, and apply it in real estate. And now I've been licensed for 17 months, I think, and it's been the best decision of my life, like bar none.
Great. Okay, so we're going to do this a little differently this time. We have a series of questions, and one thing that we really thought would be cool is these guys are very similar, but they're also very different. So we were going to hear those two perspectives on that.
Absolutely.
So our very first question is, why are we talking about consistency?
Ooh, what about our intent?
Our intent? Okay, go for it.
Just going back to an original conversation, but yeah, sorry, if you don't mind, we'd like to do that too.
Sure.
So yeah, just today, part of our intention, of course, is to provide some insights into why consistency is important to real estate agents. We're going to demonstrate a number of systems and practices that we put into our daily business, and ideally provide some ideas for you each to take home and incorporate into your own.
Yeah, I mean, Dan and I are quite different. Dan lives alone downtown in a high-rise, and I have 2 kids under 2. I live like a masochist, and Dan has a much more civilized life. But ultimately, when we came to the end of the year, we found that there were consistent things that we were doing in our business every single day that helped lead towards a result. And whether you have a life that allows for these things to happen, or you have to fit them into your life, there are ways to do it, and that's what we want to do and help you guys with today.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I always am a big fan of is data and hard numbers. So I thought it'd only be fair if we shared some of ours. So in the last 3 weeks, collectively, Ryan and I have been able to generate 176 leads. We've got offers out for 7 different clients. We've got 2 new listings and gone firm on 3 deals. Now, that's not said to impress anyone. Those kind of numbers are hit by Lee and Pete on an average Monday. But they are meant to impress upon you guys the fact that as newer agents in a downward market, even in the month of January, applying consistency to your business can help you hit your own personal numbers.
Yeah, you will hit numbers. Yeah. It's that simple.
Awesome. Okay, this is a fun question.
Right.
What is your morning routine?
Okay. I listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of books. And there's a reoccurring theme in those, something called the miracle morning. And The Miracle Morning, I decided to investigate this and look a little deeper. It's a book written by someone by the name of Hal Elrod. And he basically examined the morning routines of some of the most successful people on the planet, from all walks of life and in all different industries. And he really noticed that there's a whole bunch of similarities to these people. So he essentially wrote this book by boiling down all these top things that successful people do every morning to 6 key routine behaviors. And essentially, those are, and for me that's in this order, I get up every morning at 5:30. Immediately, I go and I meditate for 15 to 20 minutes. That is followed by reading, another 15 to 20 minutes. That is followed by visualization. What is your day gonna look like? What is your day gonna look like in 3 years from now? That's followed by affirmations, and then doing some writing. Write down what you're thankful for, what you're grateful for, what values you're gonna provide that day. And lastly, and most importantly, is exercise. Going to the gym, going for a run, doing yoga, whatever is your forte. That allows me by 8 a.m. to sit at my desk, both mentally and physically primed to take on the day and fire on all cylinders.
And my,
and that's what's called the Miracle Morning.
yeah, and like for me, my mornings are like a miracle if I get through them. I try my best to prepare my day prior to, right? So the night before is when I'm really writing my schedule for that day. Because I have 2 kids, you know, like I also get up at 5:30, but it's not on my own accord. You know, my kids are a freight train, and so honestly is the world. By the time, you know, 8 o'clock rolls around or 7:30 rolls around, you've got things coming at you that you have to already manage. And so if you're not planned, you're not organized, you're going to hit the things that are always urgent, and you're never going to get to the important things that are going to help you grow your business. And so when I wake up in the morning, I try and get up before my kids, and if I do, I get to that intimate talk with my coffee maker for 15 minutes about the things I talked about the night before, what I'm going to change that morning, and then coffee goes, and then I literally take off my real estate entrepreneur hat and I put on my dad hat, and I'm just dad until I get to daycare. And then after that, once I get to daycare, I'm back in the office by 9:30, and I'm ready to go. I'm usually fully leaded with coffee, and then I'm starting to execute on my tasks, right? So that's what my morning looks like.
Okay, how do you incorporate consistency into your business?
All right. Well, I'd say systems essentially are the backbone to consistency. It sounds simple, but it's all about committing to those systems and committing to be consistent. One thing I find wildly beneficial is, of course, we all start with our annual goals for the year. Breaking those down to monthly, weekly, and then daily is a really great way to be able to hit those goals. When you look at your goals on a daily basis, they seem pretty achievable. And of course, every time you check those off each day, your week becomes exactly what you wanted, which creates your month, which ultimately hits your year. Part of doing that, of course, is something called time blocking, which you may have heard of, where you literally decide what you're going to do, again, the night before, and block out your entire day. Another thing about the goals, of course, is making them visual. Put them on the wall in front of you. If you see your goals in front of you all the time and they're always talking to you, it helps you drive to get towards them. My daily goals, I've created a daily sheet. It's very simple, simply looks like this, but I literally time block by the hour my entire day. I have a certain amount of calls to make, I've got daily to-do lists, I've got a scheduled appointment, and at the end of the day, if I have checked off each and every one of those boxes, I know I'm absolutely 100% one step closer to my goal.
Yeah, you're not putting up an image of a Ferrari or something like that. That's not your goal. Your goal is, what are you doing today, right? What are you trying to get through today? For me, I'm just as simple. I wish that there was a secret formula, but there really isn't. I don't go anywhere without this. Everything I do comes out of this. When I plan my schedule. I'm in control of the schedule, but once I decide to execute that schedule now runs me, right? So it's very, very important, because things are going to happen to you, and you have to decide what's going to win, what's going to lose, right? You can't get through everything every day, so you got to choose. So for me, what I do is every day with the things I don't get to, I carry them forward for my next list. And at the same time, so this is my task-orientated tool, and then I have a visual tool, which is just simply Google Calendars, where I time block what I'm going to do, the consistent things every week. They take up a certain time, and then everything else I'm planning around my tasks, right? So there has to be a consistent thing you do every day that helps you towards generating more business. And if you do not do that, you won't grow.
So obviously there's some things that we can always be consistent with, and then there's some things that, you know, are a little harder to commit to. What would you guys say are your never misses, the thing that you never not do?
Gotcha. For me, it was about a year ago, about the same time I discovered this miracle morning, where I decided that health was absolutely the most important thing for me. If I'm not healthy, if I'm not operating at 100%, then basically everything underneath that kind of suffers from it, from family to friends, relationships, business. So now, just like I kind of mentioned earlier, the miracle morning and ending exercise is an absolute never miss. I help motivate myself by, I will never check my email, social media, or do any work until I've exercised. I have to earn my day because it's that important.
And I would say for me, I have two things that I never miss. One, I never miss actually telling anybody, whether it's a client, a friend, whoever I'm dealing with respect to real estate, that I'm not only there for them, I'm there for their entire sphere as well, and that it's worth their while. And I help encourage them. I'll offer them a referral fee. Most of the time, though, I find people just want their friends to be taken care of, right? So I allow them and remind them that they're going to be taken care of the same way I'm taking care of those people right now. The other thing I will never miss, because it's so easy to miss, is I will never pick up my daughter from daycare last. That's just something I won't ever do. I've made time in my schedule where I'm now in control of it, so that's never something I will miss. I was always last to get picked up as a kid, and it sucks. So I don't want that for my daughter, and that's why I work at 3 a.m., right? So.
Awesome. Okay, how does your personal life impact your business?
Personal life. You know, I heard a podcast recently, and it was an interview with Malcolm Hassman, and he gave a little story that really resonated with me. And it was one afternoon, he was going to pick up his son, who's also in real estate, and they were just going out for a casual lunch at Earl's on a Sunday afternoon, no appointments or anything. But his son came down the stairs, and he was just wearing blue jeans and a jacket. And Malcolm said, "What are you doing? Get suited up. We're going out in public," kind of thing. And the point of that is, of course, these guys, yes, they're at a certain level, but I think it affects every one of us here. We're always in the public eye, and we always have the ability to be on. We always have the ability to, like Oakwyn kind of nailed it with the theme this year, is connect everywhere. It's so true. So it kind of shows that your personal life becomes your business life. They're so intertwined now. We're not really, as successful agents, given the opportunity to live in a 9-to-5 world. It's 24/7. Success in real estate, it's a lifestyle. It's a choice that we've decided to make and commit our lives to it. So, I don't think there's personal life and business anymore. It's business life.
Yeah, it really is a merge. I mean, I don't ever leave the house anymore with sweatpants. I used to do that all the time. I now realize that I'm jeopardizing my income if I do that, right? As agents, you either buy into it and you are an agent all the time, or you're not. And to achieve the kind of success you want, you have to really realize that you're on other people's time, and you have to fit into their schedule. They're a lot like avocados. They're just not ripe for so long. And you have to constantly, are you ripe yet? No, you're not. And then there's going to be a small, very, very small window where they are ripe. And you have to be there. You have to be there all the time. So your 9-to-5 isn't really going to work. And I would honestly argue we left 9-to-5 for that. So if you can't embrace that, you're going to have trouble growing, right? But really, they are only ripe for a very certain period of time, and you have to act when they are. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned about my personal life is I'll be cooking, and I'll be on my phone, and I'll have a baby strapped to my chest. And that's my life. That's what I signed up for. But I love it too, right? I can't compartmentalize the two. It just doesn't work.
Agreed.
It's funny, I was walking around on Saturday, and I looked my worst, and I ran into 2 agents.
It's guaranteed.
Sarah Panther and Ken Leong. I ran into both of them. I was like, oh, great. Over these 2 years, I run into you all the time, too. Over these 2 years, how has your routine changed?
Well, if 2 years ago you said I would have been excited to jump out of bed at 5:30 in the morning, I thought you were nuts. I spent the first 40 years of my life sleeping until at least 8 a.m., so that's been a radical change. And of course, the previous 9 years I was an employee. You know, I was sort of at the mercy of someone else's decision making, to be honest. So a big life change and routine change is being, well, self-employed and being an entrepreneur, having to create that motivation and inspiration every single day. Identifying that need for consistency, and now, ultimately, the best part is I can now live my life by my design.
Yeah, I think routine, like Dan said, for a lot of us, was created for us by an employer for a long time. So you don't actually think about creating structure for yourself because you don't think you need it until you start running your own business and you start realizing that you're the one who has to pick up your flyers and you're the one who has to mail them. And then these are sorts of things that you start to realize that when you're working in an environment where you have people who can help you do these things, you don't really realize the structure. But now I had to recreate my entire structure, which then led to a routine. And I'm probably only 6 months, 7 months now into a really full-blown routine where I'm seeing a result. And that's because I had to determine what that routine was going to be. I didn't even know. I didn't know it was working. So I consistently had to do open houses, consistently do follow-up calls, consistently do emails to find out which avenues were working. And then that became more of my routine once I figured out what was working, right?
So give an example of the 80-20 rule, and what is the 80-20 rule?
So 80-20 rule is something I'm a huge fan of, especially with your personal life. The 80-20 rule is such that 80% of your results should come from 20% of your workload. So in any business, there's $10 an hour work and there's $600 an hour work. And in anyone's finite day where they only have 8 to 10 hours of this kind of work, you have to choose the biggest bang for your buck, right? I would not, for example, work on your website between the hours of 9 and 11 a.m. That is not the high quality, high caliber work that you guys need to be doing, right? You need to be in front of people. You need to be calling people. And it sucks because that's the work we don't want to do. Everyone wants to sit behind a computer screen where it's easy, right? But that's not what's going to get you the result.
Yeah, I think, in this industry, especially as solo agents, we wear so many hats. There are so many different things we have to do in a given day. And it's almost easy to fall into a trap of being very busy and think we're getting things done, but not being effective. So yeah, the 80-20 rule really says, look, do those things that are most important first. Do the money-generating habits first. And yes, absolutely right. 9 times out of 10, they are the hard things, the things you don't want to do. Yeah. But of course, once those are done first, then the rest of your day literally becomes easier.
You'll actually feel an endorphin release from doing the hard work.
Yeah.
So share a story about a time that, we've been talking about a lot of positive things, but share a time when negativity, your own negativity, controlled the outcome.
Yeah, for sure. I think somewhere around the midway of my first year as an agent, I was going through, I think, a 2 or 3 month dry spell, no deals, and just absolutely filled with self-doubt. I was frustrated, didn't know what was going on, didn't know how to kind of write that course. Basically, I stopped being consistent too, right? And then I started sleeping in and just really derailed myself. Found it very easy to essentially go in this downward spiral, like bad news, we get more bad news. And it really just kind of made things worse. So yeah, I just stopped being myself and just kind of was really negative for a few months. It was a tough time.
For me, I had a pretty interesting story where I think I was probably 2 months. I had been a real estate agent for, and of course, I'm not jaded by this point. My confidence is quite high, and also pretty dumb, right? And I was talking to this girl for probably 3 weeks about buying a house over Facebook. And so I said, okay, enough talking, let's get together, let's have a dinner, and let's chat about what your plans are. So she said, great, I'll bring my husband, and I said, I'll bring my wife. So we all went. Sorry, I should preface, there's a bit of a previous relationship here. We had met at some sort of outdoor party. So we all sat down, and for an hour we just, we were shooting the shit and having a good time. And then about an hour in, I was like, okay, well, let's talk about real estate, because that's why we're here. And I had been talking to the wife, and all of a sudden the husband pipes up, and he goes, it's funny you should mention that, because we actually have an offer in on a place right now. That was a reality check for me. My wife's beside me. She's stomping on my foot, like, don't, just calm down, right? And, you know, as I'm sitting there, we're talking about it, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how did I get myself into this position? And then the worst thing possibly could happen after that, it got accepted, and I had to celebrate with them. So it got that much worse, right? But what I notched it up to is they were walking away, and I was walking away. My wife looks at me, and she goes, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "You know what? That was my fault. I didn't qualify them hard enough. I didn't ask the right questions, and I got us into a position, ultimately, that embarrassed me because I wasn't diligent enough. I thought they're going to use me. Why wouldn't they? Wrong mistake. Qualify, qualify, qualify. Otherwise, it's a waste of time." And that, sorry, how did that rule my day? Ultimately, for a while there, you know, I started to think that a lot of people would be like that they would be deceiving. And so it changed that I qualify hard and also bring value first. So give them something and a reason to come back to you, and also make sure that they're not working with someone else.
How did that experience impact you moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, you know, after those few months, all of a sudden a deal happened and another deal happened, and when I looked at them, those deals were generated from the work that was done 5-6 months ago. You know, the hard work and the seeds had been planted and everything was being nurtured, and it really reiterated to me that being consistent and working, especially through the hard times, is so vital. You know what I mean? We have to hit our checklists every single day, and by doing that, sure, maybe you don't hit your weekly goal or even your monthly goal, but you're essentially building like real estate karma, and it will come back to you, and those deals will happen eventually. So it's really about believing in your own process and just, you know, work hard, especially when times are hard.
Yeah, I don't think you really start to appreciate real estate as a numbers game when things get difficult, because if you take them personally and emotionally, it's hard to handle, and you just need to sort of realize that you're throwing darts at a board, and most of them you're going to actually miss the board altogether, right? So the ones that stick, you got to drive those home. But ultimately, it impacted me in the sense that I had to be less emotional with my involvement in people, and I had to be almost a bit more retail, right? Just for my own sake.
Okay, can you share some prospecting tips?
Of course, yeah. Prospecting, you know, especially as new agents, it's pretty much the lifeblood of our business. It is so important, and because it's so important, you have to make it a priority. For myself, you know, on that sheet I showed you guys, prospecting and lead gen is between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. for me every single day. 3 hours. It's mandatory. Nothing else is more important than that, unless, of course, you're on a listing presentation or something to that equivalent, which is the ultimate goal. Knowing your numbers, again, is so vital, right? Because, again, I know for my business to hit my annual goals, if I connect with 6 people, significant conversations with 6 people, 6 clients per day, I will hit my annual goals. So if I can get through that in 1 hour, amazing. If it takes me 3, cool, that's an average day. But sometimes I will have to be on that phone for 5 hours just to make sure I hit my numbers, you know? And that is very important to prospecting. CRMs, I personally live in my CRM. I think it's absolutely vital to find one that you work very well with and just nurture it. That thing will just, all the gold is in there. You have to take the good notes, you have to be consistent with it, and just basically, you know, live in there every single day. Multiple lead sources, of course, is important. You know, 3 or 4, great, but if you can get that up to 6 or 7 different ones, it's only gonna help you. And lastly, again with Oakwyn, connect everywhere. Every single time you leave your house, be of the mindset that you're going to meet someone today that you can potentially help out to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. Literally connect everywhere. You know, it can happen in your elevator, it can happen walking the dog, anytime. So just be open and expect that type of connection to be made every single day.
I think for me, I'm much more of a face-to-face kind of real estate agent. I like relationships. So for me, you know, my advice in prospecting when you're doing someone else's open house or you're doing your own, don't come across with having commission breath. Everybody knows you're a real estate agent before you even tell them that, especially when you're showing property. That being said, you need to kind of come across in such a way that you're investigating what they need. You're more of a problem solver than you are a salesman, right? And I feel that a lot of my success has come from understanding the clients initially, what their needs are, and not only just plugging their holes, but finding moments for them to succeed and guiding them along that path. You really listen to David Miller's story brand, it's so critical because people will remember you based on the way you speak to them. And if you come across as trying to sell somebody something all the time, they'll hate you. So build that relationship and find out how to help them first.
Okay, accountability and consistency, how do they work together?
Yeah, for sure. Real estate can be kind of lonely, especially if you're a solo agent. You know, I find it very easy to get into your own head and kind of live your own path. So being able to either find an accountability or just be able to share experiences with someone, you often find not only that they've had similar problems, but you can help each other find solutions. Just by sharing your goals with somebody else, especially if they're willing to be your accountability partner, it puts something outside yourself and it gives you drive. You know, it helps you hit your own goals because now, sure, if you miss your own goals and no one knows about it, who cares? But if somebody does know about them and they're asking you about them all the time, it can be embarrassing to miss them, right? So it's a driver. I know one fellow, he actually found a great way to drive himself. He wrote a $10,000 check to an organization that he hates. And he put it in an envelope and he addressed it and he gave it to his accountability partner and said, look, if I don't hit my numbers this year, I authorize you to mail that check. That's one way of doing it. Maybe it's extreme, maybe it's absolutely brilliant. It worked for this guy. So that's one example. So ultimately, I mean, consistency and accountability, they're almost one and the same. They create each other. The most important thing in your world, in your life, and do it first. Secondly, there's a book I'm reading right now. Oddly enough, it's called Mindset. It's by a doctor named Carol Dweck. And essentially the premise of this book is she's identified the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And they're radically different. And having a growth mindset in all aspects of life, from relationships to health to business, really can propel you forward. And she teaches that it's not hard to change. You know, I've definitely caught myself in lots of fixed mindset positions. And it's good to identify those, turn them into growth mindsets, and move on. And then lastly is, of course, it's called Mindset. Yeah, I can email you the author too. And of course, the one I've mentioned a few times today is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. This basically sets your whole day off incredibly well. It's impacted me the most, for sure, so much so that I think it's only makes sense to help pay that forward. So I actually brought an extra copy today, and I would love to give this book out to anyone who's looking to make a radical shift in their morning and start it off in a powerful, energized way. Any hand up? There you go. First one gets it. Congratulations. Oh, what? Sorry? Oh, yes, they do. Yeah, I prefer the original, to be honest. Yeah.
My three books are, the first one is called Switch, and it's written by Chip and Dan Heath. Switch is all about the emotional elephant and the rational rider that resides in all of us. Oftentimes the emotional elephant and the rational rider are not working together. So it's important to realign those in people and help them make decisions that they're either emotional about or rational about, but they will not make a decision unless those things are aligned. And that helps greatly when you're helping people buy real estate, right? So that was very, very influential on me. The 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell, I found was very, very important because even though a lot of us are in business for ourselves, we don't know how to lead our own business. And that was very helpful for me to understand what principles I need to enrich in my life to drive home at my business. The last one, I'm still reading it, is Principles by Ray Dalio. Basically, it's a whole book on economic principles, the fundamentals of investing and how to use your money. And the other side of it is life principles, the things that matter to you as an individual. All three books are great, very influential books.
And Michael Yu has a podcast on principles, if you want to check that out. What are 3 takeaways?
3 takeaways. First and foremost, get a morning routine. You know, start your day off right. Everything that happens after that will really be more beneficial. Create your time block schedule and do that the night before. If you wake up and you already know exactly what's happening all day, you don't burn a single calorie or minute wasting on what am I going to do. You know, it's already set. You're living your life by your design. 3 is believe in your process, especially in the hard times. You know, it's very easy for us to, you know, kind of fall off and lose focus, but if you just turn it out day after day, check off all your boxes, the results will absolutely follow. And I guess a bonus one is, remember, you're always an agent. You are always on. So, you know, act that part, dress that part, and expect the results to follow.
You need to commit to being resilient. This is an industry where we are faced with rejection often. But like I talked about before, it's just because they're not ready for your services. So if you take it personally, you won't survive, but if you just realize that it's just not right now, you keep trying. The other ones that I was going to say were, obviously, understand the 80-20 rule. That's fundamental in any successful business. There are leverage points in your business that you need to use, and they will result in more deals for you. Find out what those are and use them. And use an organizational tool, guys. Do not fly by the seat of your pants. Don't just respond to emails and decide that's how you're going to plan your day. That's being reactive. You need to be proactive. Somebody once told me that, you either run the schedule or the schedule runs you. You decide, right?
What's next?
What's next? Well, Ryan and I have obviously, quite organically discovered that we work quite well together. We complement each other, and most importantly, we challenge each other as well. We are very good at kind of sharing our problems and creating solutions for each other, which ultimately helps serve our clients so much better. So we have started working on some deals together. We are investing in some lead generation software, which is showing some really promising early results. Ultimately, we are going to be creating a partnership. We are hiring an assistant, and we're going to be building a team very soon.
Yeah, that's very much on the future.
Yay, so exciting. We want to open it up to question and answer. So does anyone have any questions? I'll bring the mic over.
Sweet.
Yeah, we answered everything.
Just curious as to what systems you guys are using. So you mentioned that you're in your CRM all day.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you have an organization tool. So I guess Ryan, is that beyond Gmail? What's your organizational tool?
Yeah, this.
Monday.com or?
No, literally, I'm not kidding you. I'm really old school in that I really just believe in a pen and a book. If I get in my car, it's in the seat beside me. I literally go to bed, it goes on my side desk. It's everywhere I go. It's not so much the sophistication of the tool, it's the consistency of it. That's the real message. I don't drop things because I have a tool, right? This isn't gonna work for everyone. Maybe it's your phone, maybe it's Google Calendars, I don't know. But you need to find a system that works for you, right?
Yeah, myself, in this industry, I've decided to go on the volume-based approach. I know some people that have 300 clients in their database and they make a very, very nice living for themselves. I've gotten the approach of just a ton of online leads. My database is sitting
through Facebook or?
Almost entirely through Facebook. Yeah, for the online ones, absolutely. There's 4,500 people in there right now. And the software I use is called Follow Up Boss. I absolutely love it. It does a lot of sort of initiation for you. It tells you kind of who to speak to next. It does integrate incredibly with my website and shows who's interacting with my website, and literally just shows, hey, this person's looked at 8 properties in the last week and they've opened up every one of your newsletters. This person's worth a call. Yeah. So it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you in identifying people who are making the sort of activities that show that they're actually very interested in buying, selling, or investing real estate soon.
Let me just also reiterate, it's not that I don't use that tool that Dan is using as well, it's that this is my primary tool, right? But you have to use some sort of organizational tool like Follow Up Boss in order to accurately get back to everyone.
Yeah. Right? The CRM's a tough one because everyone's
got a different one.
Everyone's got a different one, and everyone's just trying to figure it out. So I know Follow Up Boss is a higher cost but higher sort of performer, yeah, with a lot more.
For sure, yeah. There's no ultimate solution, right? Everyone's got their own dynamic and how they like to work. I know some people who succeed very well just within Excel. I think it's about identifying what works best for you and then utilizing it. And of course, whatever your system is, just work it every day and just don't miss a day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned a new lead generation software.
Yes.
Would you like to share what that is?
Well, sure. I've been on this software for about 18 months now. It's called Curator. It's wildly expensive and it works incredibly well. It gets cheaper when you partner with someone, which is nice. And of course, it's literally like team-based. It was designed around teams. It's 100% scalable. So sure, to learn it and understand it as 1 or 2 agents is great, but when we can throttle it up and feed leads to 10, 20, 30 agents, that's when it becomes really powerful.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions at all?
Easy.
All right, okay, well, thank you guys so much for coming in. Do you have another one, Jeff? No? Oh, I thought you were like, sorry. Never mind. So thank you guys so much for coming in, and remember to hashtag connect everywhere, and we have a happy hour this week on Thursday, so we'll see you guys there, and that's at Banter Room.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
so much.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, cheers. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Yeah,
appreciate
really
it.
appreciate you.
If you have any questions, man, you're obviously anytime. Oh, yeah. Yeah.